Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. Today, before we get started, our podcast is part of the World Podcast Network. Now, and with over 1,100 podcasts, visit the World Podcast Network at https://worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise to the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. So today we have Henry Woodman. He is a tech entrepreneur, angel investor, board member, business coach, executive producer, traveler, crappy golfer, and publishing Dad's book. Sorry. So Henry, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And you could just say it. I'm a shitty golfer. Not even that crappy would be an advantage.
I had to clear it just a little bit.
No. Let's get with the truth. Let's be honest here. I'm a shitty golfer.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so Henry, how did you get started in all this?
Oof. When you say all this, there are a lot of dots connecting there, and it goes back to 13 and high school and college. So I don't know how far back you want to start, but I would probably venture to say that I'm more of a hedonistic and opportunistic entrepreneur.
Okay.
Basically meaning I really sort of get into things that I think I will have fun and I want to do, and opportunities present themselves. So, if I don't see an opportunity, then, there's only so much that I can do.
Okay. And you've done a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
And you're also an angel investor. One thing I could tell you that I've been working on for 25 years is I've been working on, well, first it started out as a taxi company. Then I got married, moved out to Philadelphia, and I thought, I'll start a taxi company in Philly. Well, after I saw how much the medallions were, I said, and I backed off and I backed into like a limousine company idea. Then as the marriage was falling apart, it went from limousine to casino buses, because I'm always going down to Atlantic City or I'm always going to the casinos. So I just did a business plan. I just incorporated my business in June, at the end of June, in the state of New Jersey. And this company, if funded and able to, and when operational, would actually be able to transport customers over the age of 21 to the casinos in Pennsylvania, because there's no bus services down here that does it. So I can always send you that business plan. Yeah. So, and then also, now you're publishing Dad's books. Talk about that.
Yeah. So let me, I'm going to take a step back on the business. I like businesses, and I've invested in over 40 now, but mostly B2B SaaS enterprise. They're already profitable and they're outside of Silicon Valley for a lot of obvious reasons. I came from, selling my B2B enterprise company.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I like software as a service because there's recurring revenue and you can scale without incurring a lot of costs.
Okay.
The one thing I tell when I coach businesses is, are you solving a problem? Now, it sounds like if you say that this is the first that 21-year-olds take a bus or transportation limousine to the casinos, if it's a problem, yeah. And so then you ask, if it's a first, why hasn't it been done before? That's an interesting question.
Well, I can actually answer that, because there was a company back in 2016 that I used to take to go up to what's now the Wind Creek Bethlehem Casino in Bethlehem. And one day I went and bought a ticket, and then a couple days later, they just went out of business. Literally, just went out of business.
Did you get your money back?
No. And that's been a long time ago. So
Did you ever
that's
find out why
yeah,
they went out of business?
because they owed a lot of money to New York,
Ah,
and I mean they didn't even pay their drivers. That's how bad this company went.
yeah. So that those are lessons learned. Okay, so the
So
dad's book.
yeah. So right
So
now, if I
Joe,
yeah, so right now if I wanted to go to this casino, I have to literally go to New York and take a bus from New York to Bethlehem, and it cost me $70. No, 80. No, 80. About $80.
and it becomes more frustrating if you don't win at the casino.
Nah, no, I'm happy to go, but it's the excess 2.5 hours to New York,
Uh,
and then another hour and a half back to Philadelphia.
yeah, yeah,
And especially when I try to go, I mean, they only run. They run. Sorry about that. They run about 2 shifts. They run. They run at least one run. Um, so um, now I think they expanded to 2, but they charge
yeah.
$60, but you have to reserve a ticket.
Maybe the
So,
gambling gods are trying to tell you something.
yeah, yeah. So that's why now, like, I'm going to Atlantic City. I mean, once in a while I'll go there. I don't mind doing it, but it's once in a while.
Yeah.
So, um,
So getting back to the dad's book, sorry, I
yeah,
digressed on
yeah,
a couple of a tangent there. So at the
yeah.
end of the day, 40 years ago, when I graduated college, I moved to Los Angeles thinking that I wanted to produce and direct movies. Okay, now this
Mhm.
is the early 80s, I might add. And that didn't happen. But while I was there, my sister's helping my dad move. She picks up a manuscript, she reads it, and she says, "Oh my God, Dad wrote a love story," and which was odd for my dad, if you
Mhm.
know. So she calls me up. She goes, "Listen, this would make a great movie. You should read this." She sends it to me. I read it. I fall in love with it. I'm like, "Oh my God," I was in tears. I couldn't believe it. I called Dad.
Mhm.
And I said, "Listen, I don't have a lot of money, so I give you $1 if you can buy the rights." And he wasn't really planning on publishing it. It was
Mhm.
really a tribute to a friend, right?
Mhm.
So I buy the rights, and I think, okay, now this is kind of weird because how nepotistic of me to think that my dad wrote a great story. Let me give it to a friend of mine who at the time was producing a movie, and he says, "Henry, listen, I'm in the middle of this thing. Can you give me a little time?" I'm like, "Sure, you got all the time you need." 3 days later, he calls me up. He says, "This was amazing. I was in tears. I can't put it. We're meant to do this." I'm
Mhm.
like, "Done." Well, he went off and left the movie business for real estate. I went to Latin America producing game shows. So we went in different directions. Then I came back to the US and started doing my tech company.
Mhm.
And I said, one of these days, and here we are 40 years later,
Yeah.
one of these days we're going to do this. Now, the opportunity then wasn't that big because there were a handful of studios that controlled all of the distribution.
Mhm.
And today, there's oodles of abilities with content creators and streamers to get content produced. So I think the opportunity now to create a series that can go on and get to do a deeper dive into the concept than there ever was 40 years ago. So I think timing is also on the side as well. All right, Joey, turn that thing off.
I am. We are sorry about that, folks.
Yeah,
All
no
right,
worries.
we got the do
Yeah,
not we got the do not disturb on, so it won't go off anymore.
there you go.
All right, I'm sorry. Continue on.
Yeah, no, I was just explaining the thing. So really, the concept was simple. The book is called The Reincarnation of Marie, and it is about a guy who finds his soulmate with only one problem. She had died 100 years earlier. And through the course of his obsession with this woman who wrote a journal, and he read her journal and he fell in love with the writing and the woman and everything about her, that he finally realizes, it's kind of crazy. I can't believe it. I've fallen in love with a dead woman. This is weird, right? To the point where he then finds, or he believes he's found her reincarnation. She answers like her, she thinks like her, she dresses like her, she has the same taste like her. He believes that he found the reincarnation of Marie. Now, Marie is really Marie Bashkirtseff, who was a real person historically. She lived in the late 1800s. She wrote a journal from 14 to 24. That's when she died. And 2 years after her death, it was published and it became an international bestseller. It was because at the time, women didn't write about the intimacies and the sexuality and things that she was talking about in her book. And so it was a hugely popular book. And of course, after the decades, it sort of loses its way into the booksellers on the Seine River there. And that's the concept. Now, the TV series is a much deeper dive into that concept. Okay, so are there soulmates? And if there are there people in past lives that have intertwined with your current life? Are you paying back karma, or are you getting rewarded for good karma, or are you paying for the sins of the father? All of these things are big question marks that we often ask ourselves beyond the obvious. I mean, can love transcend death? Does reincarnation exist? Are there such a thing as soulmates? Is there another metaverse? Is this all there is? We don't obviously answer the questions, but we sort of pose them in the series of, wow, or is all of this just a figment of our imagination?
Okay. All right. So I do have some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
First, I'm going to introduce the person who brought the questions. She is the podcast's number one fan, number one follower, and she's actually a actual superheroine. So
I love it. A superheroine indeed.
And there she is. Her name is American Fox. And the first question she has for you is, do you have any favorite places you travel to?
Oh, absolutely. And I've done a lot of traveling. I think the place I like the most is New Zealand, especially the South Island. And there was a time in my life where I actually thought I was going to move and live in New Zealand, but it's just so far removed from the rest of the world that I decided against it. The other challenge with New Zealand itself, but also the South Island, is it's around the Pacific Ring of Fire, meaning there's generally concerns about volcanic activity and earthquakes and things of that nature. So I like to go visit. I love the people. I love the nature there. Love the islands. It's probably my favorite place.
Okay. The second question I kind of brought up earlier about what I'm trying to do, because her question was, what advice could you give someone who's trying to start a transportation service business?
Wow. I don't know much about the transportation service business, so I'd be really talking out my ass, but I would say, is this a problem? Is it a problem that other people have that you're solving? And if so, then you have some opportunity. And if it is a problem, can it scale, or can you make money off of doing that? How do you know that, the business is going to do well? Because there's a need, or is it your need? Are other people having that need, and so on?
Okay. Like I said, I'll send you the business plan later on today in reference to that. So that way you can see what I'm talking about. Question number 3, in reference to American Fox, in a way, and in reference to all three. Do you like the superhero genre?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who doesn't? It takes you out of your everyday pedantic life and gives you a little sort of superhero fantasy, what the world could be like, or strengths and powers that are unhuman.
Okay. Well, you know how you mentioned about with your dad's book in reference to falling and being interested in?
Yep.
Here's the answer right here. I've been a Wonder Woman fan for a long time. When I first met American Fox, I was like, if you really look at her, she almost looks like the Adrian Palicki version of Wonder Woman with a different bustier and outfit. But as I've gotten to know her, she is amazing. She loves chatting superheroes, and she's on Twitter and Instagram. So, but she is a great person. It's like I've wanted to see her in person so much because she's this amazing. She's this supportive. She does everything possible to keep me afloat, quote unquote.
Wow, it sounds like you're a big super fan. She should be doing this interview.
Yeah. Well, in a way, she does behind the scenes. So, but like I said, she. If I don't have questions, then sometimes these podcasts end in like within 15 minutes. But when she has questions, I mean, they come out good. And matter of fact, there are some guests that have gotten interested in her in reference to getting to know her and in reference to getting to know a superheroine. And so those were questions that she had. Like I said, in reference to the transportation service business, she was talking about mine, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So, like I said, she is the biggest fan, number one fan, number one supporter. She does, like I said, she does everything possible, and it's like I really tried I made my best to try to make more out of her, and I enjoy bringing her out because she's always looking for real friends to chat with on Instagram and Twitter. So, so you can follow her on Twitter at American Fox 4 or on Instagram at American Fox 12018. All right. So, now you also mentioned that you're a board member. Explain to me about the board member position.
You got to herd a lot of cats. No, actually, it's a couple of boards, but at the end of the day, it's really more of a formality. One of the companies I'm an investor in, and the other is a group of C-level people where we get together. And so the board essentially handles logistics.
Yeah.
And if there are any important questions, we'll have a discussion about that.
Okay.
It also will facilitate ideas for moving forward, scaling or investing and stuff like that. So it's nothing like we do not get involved in the day. At least I don't get involved in the day-to-day.
Okay. All right. So one other thing that I kind of kept it clean, but you literally just brought it out, that you're a shitty golfer.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
So what you're saying is I fucked it up from the beginning, huh? Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
No, I didn't.
Well, let's be clear. Anybody who has an affection for golf and does not have the time to play often, it's really hard to be a good golfer. And the reason is golf is a game of consistency. You have to play a lot and you have to be comfortable and you have to relax in order to be any good. Because if I don't play for a while, which I haven't because I had shoulder surgery recently, and I come back and I play, I'm better than I thought I was. But if I spend a little bit of time and I go regularly and I play and I think too much, that's when I end up doing dumb things like hitting the ball in a slice or topping it or things like that.
Yeah. In reference to why we had to reschedule was because of my knee. It started out with some pain, and a couple days later, it wound up being a meniscus tear.
Hey.
So they got me out. I'm supposed to go back to work on Sunday, and I work at Amazon, so I'm always on my feet. So it's going to be a challenge over the next 2 weeks because I couldn't get a physical therapy until like the 23rd of August. So that's why we had to postpone the original date, which was 2 weeks ago. And I do thank you so much for understanding that. And So as we go into closing, how can people reach out to you in reference to the business coaching or?
It's pretty simple. I have a website really that was initially done for the book and the TV series. It's called mariethestory.com. So that includes a little bit of information on the book as well as, where to buy it, obviously. And then it has information on my father who wrote it, and then information on the TV series that's now labeled Slippin'. That's the working title, like Slipping Through Time.
Okay.
And it also obviously includes some blurbs with the book and some testimonials from people, as well as links to my LinkedIn page and Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
There you go. Now you know everything.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, Henry, I thank you so much for your time, and I enjoyed the conversation, and especially definitely check out mariethestory.com and check out the TV show. Hopefully when it comes out on film, check out the film, check out the book, check out everything in reference to Henry.
There you go. Yeah, the series won't be out for a while because we're now just getting to pitch and development. So these things don't happen quickly, but read the book and you'll get a sense of what I'm talking about. And if you like it, give it a good review. If you don't like it, you're dead to me. No, I'm just kidding.
And then Henry, whenever you want to come back on, whenever the series is ready, you want to come on, just email me and let me know. All right?
Thanks, Joey.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching the Life with Joey Cavill YouTube live stream. God bless you all.
Cheers.
All right.